Monster Hunter World features 14 different weapon types, with the hammer being one of them. In this guide, we'll take a look at exactly how to use this weapon to its fullest, as well as show you some things you may not know about it. If you're new to the game or you are a veteran of the franchise and just need a quick refresher, this guide is for you. The hammer is a great choice of weapon for those who like to attack a bit slower but deal more damage. Unlike the greatsword, the hammer deals blunt damage, which is excellent for stunning monsters. And also, unlike the greatsword, players can move while performing their charge attacks, making this weapon a bit easier to use for new players to the game. When you pull off combos with the hammer, you can actually see and feel the damage you are doing, making this weapon extremely satisfying to wield. The combos with the hammer are some of the easiest in the game, and the first is simply 3 triangles that does 2 overhead smashes followed by an upswing. The next combo comes from a tier 1 charge of R2 triangle triangle, and the last is from a tier 2 charge of an R2 triangle triangle. You will also do some variations of these attacks if you move forward while charged, but they all follow up with a triangle as well. The hammer also has an awesome overhead smash if you press circle called the Big Bang, but you cannot strike a second time unless you connect on the first swing, and you cannot connect a third time if you miss on the second, and so on up to a total of 5 swings. This combo is a great way to stun monsters if you can pull it off, and has some of the highest damage in the game versus down monsters. Much like the greatsword, the hammer has charge attacks that have 3 tiers. Holding R2 longer will cause the hammer to pulse, increasing the tier each second or so, maxing out at tier 3. Unlike the greatsword though, you cannot overcharge the hammer, and you can hold the last charge until you run out of stamina, which will drain if you move at all. This allows you to pre-charge your hammer before you engage. If you press circle while you're charging your hammer, you will gain a buff that increases both attack damage and stun damage, as well as giving you minor hyper armor during your charge attacks. This buff will end if you sheath your weapon or are struck by an attack that staggers you. Hammers tend to have very low elemental damage and sharpness, which can be problematic. Be sure to keep your eye on your sharpness and use a whetstone when needed, preferably when you've KO'd a monster or when you are chasing after one. Always try to position yourself at the head of the monster you are fighting. You are most effective when striking it because of the high stun damage you deal, and stunning monsters will give you and your group some free damage, so you should constantly be aiming to KO them. You cannot block with a hammer like you can with a greatsword, so players using one must learn to evade attacks. Because the hammer has a shorter reach than most heavy weapons, this is more important than usual, because you'll be in the thick of it quite often in order to connect hits. Because hammers can knock other players flying, be sure to stay clear of them when playing with other players who are using them, and try to avoid hitting others when you are using one, particularly with your upswing. Lastly, hammers have much shorter reach than you would think, especially when compared with a greatsword. They make up for this though with high mobility, allowing them to move while charging. Make the most of that advantage and learn to hold your charges until you are sure they will connect. Just be sure to keep a close eye on your stamina when doing so. Be sure to check out our other weapon and monster guides for all your needs, and if you have specific questions, be sure to check out the Monster Hunter World Wiki. Good luck, hunters. May the furs be with you.